Okay, guys, so we get a really good episode concentrating on Sabine and the Darksaber. As we all know, Kanan shows Finn Rao the Darksaber, and we get a small piece of history of the Darksaber and Tar Vizsla, the first Jedi Mandalorian inducted into the Jedi Order. Finn Rao tells Kanan that if Sabine can wield the Darksaber, she could win over Mandalore and persuade her people to fight against the Empire. The crew, or family if you will, has a meeting to ask Sabine to take on this task. She resists at first due to her fear that her family would reject her. However, Hera convinces her to try it for the sake of the rebellion and her family. Kanan and Ezra take Sabine to a remote area in which to practice. We are then treated to a very gritty and tough sparring session with Kanan and Sabine. Kanan then decides to have Ezra instruct Sabine through some fighting forms. Kanan expressed some frustration with dealing with Sabine while talking to Hera. Hera sends Finn Rao out with supplies, but also to help out with Sabine and her attitude about training. Finn Rao provides Sabine with a couple of Mandalorian band braces. These braces carry a couple of Force-like weapons on them, like a sonic push, a rope or laser lasso, which can pull or wrap someone up. Sabine quickly catches Ezra off guard with her new weapons. Kanan takes exception to Sabine's new cocky attitude with her new weapons. Sabine challenges him by wrapping him with her laser whip. Kanan quickly frees himself from bondage and pulls Sabine to the ground, holding his lightsaber to her neck, telling her about the Jedi Mandalore War and that she needs to be more focused on her training. Sabine is upset with Kanan's tough training methods and storms off into the desert. We then dive deeper into Sabine's fears of facing her family and the responsibilities that come with the Darksaber in a conversation with Ezra. Kanan and Hera discuss how Kanan is holding Sabine back by not letting her train with the Darksaber, but Kanan fears that Sabine will hurt herself with the Darksaber. Sabine returns to camp and Kanan hands her the Darksaber. We learn how energy constantly flows through the crystal and how thought and action flow through the crystal as well, helping to guide the blade. Then they both engage in an intense training session. The training session quickly turns to Kanan pushing and prodding Sabine about her fears with her family. Kanan suggests that she is not ready, that she quit. He antagonizes her. Ezra becomes uneasy with the tension of the session. As Sabine's frustration mounts, she becomes injured. She comes back with rage, suggesting that she will not quit. But this forces Sabine to pour out her guilt over working with the Empire to help enslave her people. After she stood up and spoke out against the Empire, her family rejected her and she became an outcast and had to run from Mandalore. Alright guys, so we're going to get into my final thoughts on this episode in just a moment. Alright, so I thought this was an excellent episode that gave us great insight on the lightsaber training and how the sabers react to one another, but more importantly, we got some great background on Sabine and how she became an outcast from Mandalore. I also really loved the music in this episode. There were a few times where you can hear the familiar Star Wars themes being played. Excellent music in this episode. For a very simple episode, it was very entertaining. I know there were some fans who were hoping to get more information on Tar Vizsla and the backstory on the Darksaber, but I figured that they would give that to us in a novel or a comic book. Hopefully they may give that to us in a live action film or perhaps in another animated feature. Alright, so here we're going to get into some speculation and some spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled by anything that was in the mid-season 3 trailer, you might want to pause this video before moving on. Alright, so what is this episode setting up for us? I think a lot. We already know from the mid-season trailer that Sabine will meet with the Mandalorians. We also know that she will do battle with Gar Saxon, leader of the Imperial Commandos. But beyond that, I think it opens up the possibility of a canon version of the Old Republic with the mention of Tar Vizsla. Who knows, a novel, a comic book, maybe even an animated series after the Rebels series is done. Maybe that is what Filoni is currently working on. as we know he is taking on a different project while still being lead producer on Rebels. As I had mentioned before, I believe that this also sets up Sabine with a future on Mandalore that extends into the original trilogies. What that future is, we don't know as of yet. Then there is also the mention of the Jedi-Mandalorian War by Kanan. Again, that is another story that can be told in another form or fashion, albeit comic book, novel, live-action film, or animated series. Again, there was a lot that came out of this episode that broadened the Star Wars universe. I now understand why John Campea called this episode maybe the best and most important episode of Rebels. Alright guys, so my score for this episode is going to be a very strong 9.0. Not so much for the action, even though there was plenty of it with the sparring session, but the information that we got out of this episode with the saber training, the sabers themselves, the Jedi and Mandalorian War, Tar Vizsla, and the history of the Darksaber. So much new information that pushes the story forward. Not to mention the setup for Sabine and her return to Mandalore and having to face her mother and her family. So guys, jump into the comments. Tell me what you thought. Did you like the episode? Are you excited about where the story arc is taking us with the Mandalorians and Sabine? Do you think we will get an old Republic story now that we have a canon character from that era in Tar Vizsla? Jump in the comments, let's talk. But guys, I want to thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you like this video or if you love Star Wars content, if you haven't already. And I will see all of you guys next time.